All right, welcome to the Underdog Ecom podcast, where two ecom brand founders are figuring out in real time.
Yeah, we're not here to preach. We're here in the thick of it, making mistakes, testing all sorts of ideas, and really sharing the journey of how we've been growing these brands from day zero. Hopefully you learn a little bit, perhaps come away with some ideas that save you time and money. And so if you're tired of the same glittery D2C advice from those 9-figure gurus, you're here in the right place.
Let's get into it. It's early June here in the ecom world, or rest of the world as well, I guess. And David and I are struggling through things David and I are struggling through things as always, but I'm keen to hear, it's been a couple of weeks, I'm keen to hear what you've been up to, David, like how you've been pushing through things. I know you've been, you've had quite a few things happen in the business like the last few weeks.
I am on the verge of the greatest comeback story of all time, I think. Maybe not, but I would put it in the top 100, perhaps. My brand has had some struggles over the last couple of years, and particularly a week or two ago, I was on the edge of a cliff, I feel like. Basically cash flow pinch per usual, nothing different, nothing too crazy. It sounds like it happens to a lot of folks in this world that is very difficult. Essentially, there was like a calamity of issues I think that happened, and one of them, for example, was I was over reliant on wholesale for income purposes, and wholesale was down in the Q1 this year. Like, I was looking at the numbers. A couple months were 30% down, 70% down for me. Most of my wholesale buyers had stopped buying except for like two main ones. So luckily they were fueling still wholesale on that side. So that was good. I had been increasing my inventory purchases because of those numbers that wholesale needs. And so overall for a brand of my size, like mid 6 figures, 5 figures, mid 5 figures, I think I focused too much on wholesale. And it's one of those things that's like hard because what's nice is the order size is really big, right? Like my AOV is like $800 to $1,000 or more. But when that doesn't happen, that's pretty brutal. And so I kind of got over reliant. I started ordering too much of different products, and that led to some of my cash flow pinch. The bigger issues though with cash flow is just, as I've said before, my weak spot rather, is managing the financial aspect to things and the operational aspect of things. Like, I'm kind of a product designer at heart. I want to spend all my time designing new shorts and hats and jackets and that sort of thing. And I don't want to be spending my time plugging numbers into a 13-week cash flow spreadsheet, which drives me crazy, but I need to be. And so I basically got into a tricky spot where I ran out of cash, and cash is king. And my Amex, I'd been charging things to, it got frozen because of a balance that had gone past due. I had taken on several revenue-based finance loans, which, it's a very divisive topic in the ecom world. Like, they make sense for certain reasons because ecom is hard to get traditional bank financing for. It's risky for those banks. They can't liquidate a factory or assets very easily. If the business goes belly up, businesses go belly up all the time. And so I was over reliant on those, and I know that they're really expensive. I fully acknowledge that, but it seemed like sort of a quicksand trap that I fell into, where I took one and then like, oh, I need some quick cash, let me take another one. And then I double dipped, and I took both a Wayflyer and a Shopify Capital, was running on my D2C Shopify storefront, which is really bad. So I had 30% of my daily cash flow going out to these lenders, which just made it pretty much impossible to operate. And then I also had taken one on my B2B storefront because I have a Shopify B2B storefront. And so just so much cash was getting choked out of the business, and it left me with like nothing at the end of the day to finance inventory. And a lot of my inventory financing has just been straight up cash wires to banks. And now I'm starting to look at alternatives to that where I can finance it for a smaller amount, like the Settles and the Kick Furthers and the Clearcos of the world that kind of can do more PO financing, which I think will help free up a lot of cash, because I was making deposits on POs with cash when I needed that cash. I think that was part of the equation that I was missing. I ended up finding, thankfully through my network, a local bank that lent me a line of credit that I signed on, a line of credit that I signed for. So that it basically allowed me to do a lot of debt consolidation and get rid of the Amex balance that was overdue, get rid of the Wayflyer loan. And it was honestly like terrifying. And I was excited but scared because it's a traditional bank, and it seems like a big thing to sign on this big 5-figure loan that has to get paid back in a year, and it's like interest only right now, which is amazing. The numbers all looked really good. It will save me. I was paying thousands a week towards these revenue-based loans, and this will save me thousands of dollars in cash flow, and just interest in general. And so it was definitely the right move. It felt like I stepped up the ladder in some ways to the big boy, maybe the minor leagues, not necessarily the major leagues. But it is the right move. And I feel like already it feels like I have breathing room. Sales are starting to take off. Facebook ads are starting to work a little bit better. I've got some really cool stuff coming in the pipeline. And I think that is what I need to, I honestly, I get really excited about this because I feel like I'm sitting on a gold mine. I've been selling the same sorts of designs for years, and as an apparel brand, I tried to deviate from the popular method of doing drops and like seasonal releases and that sort of thing. And I'm not going to get into like a pump and dump sort of really quick product release cycle, but for example, my most popular shirt I've sold in one color for like 4 years, and the shirt was featured in like an REI marketing video at one point, just randomly had a cameo. I've sold thousands and thousands of these shirts. It's super popular and it's a great shirt, but literally one color. And I'm like, all I have to do, I feel like, is release other colors and people will love it. And that's just one shirt example. And so I'm pretty excited for the future. I feel like I have solved a lot of the issues that I've been facing with the brand. Not out of the woods by any means. Like I still had to keep one of the Shopify Capital loans, which is a 10% draw. So I've dropped my daily revenue pulls from 30 to 10, and that's the most that I'm doing. And that seems very manageable. And so going forward, I'm really excited. Like, yeah, there's debt and big boy debt and that sort of thing. But I think that like I'm starting to get a hold of things, starting to figure things out. The mistakes that I made in the past, I'm learning from, and I'm hopefully never going to make those mistakes again. So that's my story. That's where I've been in the last couple of weeks, besides all of the other day job stuff with crazy clients and doing tons of like dev work, because that's a whole other story. But yeah.
It's a remarkable turnaround, honestly. Like, and I mean, like I knew you're going to do it, but it was, it's not easy, right? And just like mentally not easy. And I think what you're saying about dependency on wholesale, I don't know if you can be that hard on yourself, because I mean, you could also look at that and be like, I need to double down on wholesale, right? I mean, you could, it's one of those things where I think in ecom, a lot of people talk about, really focusing on one channel. And I understand that. And I think generally it's good advice. I think sometimes you can, especially in your smaller, when you're like, if you just spread budget out in various different ways, or even spread your time out in various different ways, you can kind of just not do anything well. And sometimes, building up certain channels can be good. Likewise, it can be really tough when you're depending on them a bit. And I've been in that situation loads myself. Not so much with wholesale, as I've never managed to get wholesale like really humming, but with other things, certainly I've been kind of dependent on it. And I think that's something that is really hard to manage. I think it's a case of like just kind of hedging your bets a little bit and trying to look into other ways to grow, but at the same time really trying to double down on what's working. I mean, it's the same thing with ads, right? I mean, when ads are flying, you don't want to spend it. You just, why not put your money there and just keep pushing it, right? Instead of like trying something else. But then, when it gets to it, when things, when Meta breaks or whatever happens, at certain times of the year, it's just like you think, oh my God, I wish I had some of the channel. So at least I certainly do. So I think it's a tough one.
Yeah, it's hard. Like I get that idea where you want to focus in on one channel, and I agree to that to a certain extent, but also you're right, like diversification generally in the grand scheme of things with life and investing and that sort of thing is a pretty good strategy, because you're not over reliant on one thing. And wholesale we did that whole episode about it, but it was like 40% of my revenue for a while. And I also, because I was feeling the cash flow pinch, that's also where I really enjoyed the wholesale element to it, because I kind of overstock inventory. That's one of my issues as well, as I try and figure out what people really like, where's that product market fit, that sort of thing. And so being able to see wholesale orders that come in for, and these are generally pretty big orders, like 1,000, sometimes $2,000, like that's a huge order amount, like compared to D2C, which can be that in a day sometimes. Like,
Yeah.
I think I'm averaging like 800 to maybe 1,500 a day or something in D2C sales. And so seeing that in one order come in is pretty amazing. And I think that's where that like dopamine hit or whatever kind of got me over focused maybe on wholesale. And it's crazy looking at some of the numbers. I was looking at my Fair account, for example, and I do a lot of email marketing via Fair, which has worked fairly well in the past, no pun intended. But the last like 2 months, I've seen one order come in via wholesale. And I was talking about that in the Underdog Ecom Slack a little bit yesterday, I think it was, and another fellow said that he's seen the same, where it's just been, and I understand there's challenging economic environments right now, and consumer sentiment is probably down based on everything else. And so like there's external factors there that play into it. And it's hard, where it's like, I feel like wholesale is dependent on ultimately the person buying the stuff in the store. And there's a lot of different like different pieces of the puzzle that can break, where it's like, oh yeah, you need to be top of mind for the buyer. You need to make sure that the end user is going to purchase your stuff in the shop. And then also, is their shop getting traffic? Are people going to the shop? Like, are people even shopping these days? It's like, there's so many different elements to it.
Yeah, I think wholesale seems to be more like linked to, like directly things going on like in like the economic environment, because if you think about like the typical buyer on Fair, it probably is that like mom and pop like store on average. That's because like generally the bigger, retail stores, like they only have their own buying practices and all that sort of stuff already there. I'm sure there are bigger retail establishments that are on Fair, but like generally it's like that kind of smaller store boutique type of thing. And they're the ones that are going to absolutely hold out on ordering whenever their things get a bit tough. Just the same way we do as smaller businesses. So I think that's got a big load to it. I've certainly seen Fair die down a little bit the last couple of months. I had like 2 or 3 in a day, and then it just like nothing happened for like 2 months. It was really weird. And but that's the thing about Fair. It's really hard to. And I've even tried like I'm sure everyone has their ads on Fair and things as well. But like it spends like $10 a month or something, So yeah.
I'm really curious. I'm gonna pull up my numbers on the Fair ads, because I've been doing those since the very beginning. And you're right, like it's nice that it's fire and forget, sort of set it and not come back. But
do you know that I'm trying to remember her name now. She's got like a wholesale agency, like something in Prosper or something like that. Like a fair
oh
wholesale.
I've heard,
because I've got her.
Not
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if this is I don't think this is the right Fair agency, quote unquote, but I've heard some not great things about for the Fair agencies before. And I don't know. I feel like if you sat down, did like a lot of thought around how to optimize Fair, which we kind of talked about in a prior episode, I think you could probably like train a VA on doing all of that for you. And I don't know if the ROI is there to hire an agency for Fair. But sorry, keep going.
No, I agree. I don't think there is enough you can actually do. Like, I don't think there's enough like knowledge that someone could pick up in Fair for it to be like they can really drive huge amounts of value. I think a lot of it you can do yourself. I don't think it's like I don't think it takes lots of experience to be able to run a Fair, account like well. The other thing I was going to say is one thing I saw in a post that I think it was from that agency where she mentioned that for some reason she'd seen like Fair ads do way better when the maximum budget was like much lower for some reason. So if you set it around like 100 or 200 a month, for some reason it would spend all that budget and it would actually reach people. If you spent it like $1,000 or 1,500 a month, it would like barely spend anything. I don't know how much truth there is to that, but I just thought that, I don't know. I mean, I think I set mine like a can't remember exactly where I said it, but it was, you know, more sort of high, thinking like it's probably, I bet it's not going to spend all of it, and if he didn't spend any of it. But I did see a post there about like actually lower budgets, maybe work or something, or what better.
I'm going to try that right now. So right now mine is at, we're pulling back the curtain, folks. You can see the exact numbers, or hear the exact numbers. So mine's been at 400 since January. January it was 300. Prior to that, it was pretty much 300. It typically spends, the first month it spent 80, then 165, and then 70, 60, 30, 40, 60, 20, 20, 40, 80. It's driven 4 customers. I've acquired 4 customers in the last year. Wow. Total sales attribution is around 1,100. So it's telling me that the ROAS for that is like 1.7 projected first year ROAS. I think I split my advertising budget into new and returning customers. Interesting. Or is it combined? It's hard to tell if it's combined, but so right now my budget is 400. I'll try and drop that to, did that post mention like a number, like 150?
I think it was something around between 100 and 200, I think is what she said.
Okay. I'm going to drop to like 150 then, I think, and see what happens, because at this point it's not working at all. I mean, it's basically not working. I mean, part of it
mine's mine's even worse. Like it's, sorry.
Really?
I spent 18,
my brain is okay. Here we go. You go.
I spent $18.18 since January 2025, and I've got a $500 a month budget.
All right.
So, and you have no control over it. What do you do? I mean, like, other than budget, what really can you do?
Yeah, I know that. You know, that's nice, but also not nice. I don't know. And Facebook's moving that way, right? Where you click like 2 buttons and then you're done for the day. Which I kind of personally prefer. I'd rather not get into the nitty-gritty, but also if it's not working, then it's not working. So it's kind of like, how much do you trust the algo and how much do you trust their numbers? I apparently have, it's also kind of tricky because my brand is niche, and it's like, you know, I'm not selling something that appeals to everyone. My TAM isn't the massivest TAM in the world, but there's also are a lot of small shops that want what I sell. So it's, I don't know. It says, so I've got my budget split, 250 for new customers, 150 for returning. It says to maximize reach, we recommend you set your limit between 200 to 400 for new customers and 120 to 240 for returning, which I'm in that amount. But it also recommends combining them, I think. And who knows, you know, these recommendations, who knows? Of course they want me to spend more, but yeah, interesting. I don't know. So that's the fair rabbit hole, I guess, but who knows?
Yeah. I suppose the other thing, other than that, I suppose from my side, I was mentioning a bit this before we started recording, but I've been trying to just look into other ways of like trying to get some consistent sources of traffic, basically. And I mentioned to you, I've got a friend who's like a YouTuber who's told me that he's had like since late last year, he's had like a influx of brands reaching out to him in terms of like more for, not for just like a one-off post or like a featured, but like long-term like collaboration. So they say like, we want us to be in 2 or 3 of your videos over the next 2 months, or we want to be in, you know, a 1 video a month for the next 6 months or whatever it is. And it seems certainly like, and of course he likes it because, you know, he can figure that out amongst all the content. So it's easy for him to kind of like schedule it in. And then also, so then it's not too like sort of like, you know, promoted brands all the time in his content, but at the same time, he doesn't mind giving them a slightly better deal because he knows he's got like guaranteed revenue as a creator for the next 3-6 months. And so it sort of sparks some interesting, and like I was thinking, well, maybe that's something I need to look into, and maybe some of the creators we worked in the past that have like, maybe not on like Instagram and stuff like that, where I just don't think long-term like collaborations or content, I mean, it can work, but I wanted to get maybe like long form content, and even things like reviewers and bloggers and stuff like that, where we could have like something up on their site on a long-term basis. So I've started to do that. I started to see that work pretty well. And just get, I think the key is having people that are very, very highly targeted. Like, for us, like I started with like tennis reviewers where, they kind of trust what they're talking about, what they're saying, like the products they recommend. But I have seen that, it's very early days, it's been a couple of weeks, but I've seen quite a few sales come in there. And I do wonder whether it's kind of helping everything else work a little bit better in some way, in terms of ads work a little bit better, because it's a bit more like, more people on a site to then retarget, whatever. So,
Totally.
yeah, I think I something I'm trying to push a bit more.
I like that idea. I think that you're right. Like there's that ripple effect where it is like, oh yeah, they see it on YouTube and then all of a sudden they get an ad and that sort of, so it's like sort of one thing helps the other thing. And I really like YouTube and I wanted to focus on it a lot more. And it's like, it's been something that's been on my to-do list that I just haven't had time for, I guess. And I think that there's a lot of staying power behind it. And because Google owns it and they're like the ultimate search engine, who knows, I know that AI is going to overtake that at some point, but I feel like for the Gen Pop, like AI is not their go-to search engine. And so, Google will still have that ultimate like SEO, at least for the first couple of years here, whereas we're on like the cusp of AI adoption. And having owned YouTube, they can like cross-pollinate those video results, people searching for tennis bag. Like there's just so much crossover there. And I think the age of Meta is sort of fading a little bit in terms of like everyone's on there and that's the ultimate engine to sell with. And I like that ability where it's YouTube, you can search for tennis bags and then have your result there. And it's like, you can't really do that on TikTok or Instagram as well with content. So I love that. I think that that's a good, smart play. And it could be like you're saying, it's cool it's good that you're seeing results, and I hope those stay and just grow.
Thanks. Speaking of that, actually, we were talking about some things that may be like happening right now in ecom, and that just reminded me. I don't know if you received this email, but I got an email from Meta saying that, like on the shop, like Meta shops are no longer going to be, the checkout is no longer going to be on Meta. It's going to be on, and I thought that was like, that is the biggest fail from Meta's side. Like that could be like their shops thing has been a complete like they had. How is it that they basically own all this audience, this traffic, and they're literally conceding to like say Shopify and everything else because their product is so bad in terms of, I just don't understand it. Like I think what they need to have done is like literally to have acquired Shopify or something, integrated the whole thing, made it like unbelievably good, and basically their Meta Shops thing has turned into like just a terrible product.
Yeah. It seems like a total 180 where they were like, this is the way forward. Like we will focus on this so much and you must use it. It is the future for online shopping, for social shopping and that sort of thing. And to see them reverse is awesome. Cause I actually, most of my campaigns I would set to website because I wanted to own that and I wanted to get the traffic and that sort of thing and have the experience owned and have my promotion post purchases shown and everything like that, like a laundry list of reasons to own that experience and have it on our own site. And so it was awesome to get that email. And I saw a couple other people talking about it on the Twitters, mentioning that it is a big change and a big shift. You're right though, like them fumbling on it, they kind of dropped the ball. I feel like it's kind of crazy with these tech companies because they've got, like $5 gajillion a day that they make, and they've got like 5,000 engineers at their disposal rather, and this bleeding edge AI and all sorts of stuff. And it's like, if your attention was focused on this, they probably could have, but I think that their just attention was elsewhere. And the VP that was advocating for that product maybe has a new job or wasn't being heard from or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah. And I mean, you could say anything you say with Shopify, right? I mean, like, how did Shopify become so big? Like there were so many other players that had way more money, way more devs, way more like, and it's just like they all dropped the ball. It's just like incredible, really. But yeah, and also especially with TikTok Shop, like, I mean, that you'd think they would have put so much priority, like Meta would have put so much priority on making this work because TikTok Shop is just like growing and growing and growing, and you'd think they would want to have something to compete with for that. So I just don't understand that unless they're just planning on buying TikTok in the US when they get forced to sell. I don't know.
That'd be a really smart move. I don't know. I'm sure they've considered it. I'm sure they've tried. There's no way that they're not considering it. Like they would own so much eyeball attention if they did that. Like, what would be left? YouTube versus Meta that owns everything? Like, there'd be no other platform besides those two.
Yeah.
Oh man, that'd be crazy. I don't even want to think about that.
I even think like the shopping experience on YouTube could be way better. Like the amount of product reviews, the amount of like, I mean, they've got an integration with Shopify and everything, but like even that's so subpar. You know what I mean? I'm just so surprised like that they haven't done more for all of that.
Yeah, I haven't tried that. Speaking of getting let down by like e-commerce integrations, I did launch my TikTok shop like a couple weeks ago to try and figure that out because that's been on my to-do list for a long time, and not very easy, not very straightforward. It doesn't still sync most of my products because there's like little issues that, and the platform doesn't make sense. You kind of just have to like keep turning things on, turning them off, turning them back on again to try and get them synced up. You'd think by now with how it's hard to say, like TikTok shop is really hot and trendy in our specific sphere, but like in general, how hot and trendy is it? It seems pretty hot and trendy, but um we're in the ecom niche, of course, but it does seem like it's generating tons of revenue and stuff for them and like driving TikTok growth. So you'd think they would focus on it quite a bit more. I don't know. It's hard to say, but I was a little surprised at how hard it is. And I put off launching it for the longest time and trying to figure it out because I'd heard that it was very difficult and very manual. And there's lots of issues that come when orders come in because you can't see customer information and returns are difficult and yada, yada, yada. So we'll see. I don't think I've gotten an order yet on it because I don't have most of my products and I haven't done a ton of promotion of it, and I need to seed to creators. And it's just one of those, like, another avenue that is a big investment of time.
Yeah, it is a huge investment of time. It's one of those things where it's really tough to put the effort in when you don't see any results. Like yet, it's really tough. I wonder whether like the live shopping element for you could be good, just for like that BTS stuff that you do. Like if you were to just like turn that into a live shopping, like you almost like you just like you film it for posting, you know, but then you also have it live and just see whether people come, you know, and it probably takes like your location data into account, stuff like that, for finding the right people. Like it's like PNY stuff. Or I mean, I imagine I don't know. I don't know that I've ever done it, but they seem to be pushing live shopping a lot. So even more than the creator stuff, it seems right now.
Maybe I'll try it Friday. Like, so basically just kind of show up and be like, hi, uh, we're here on QVC, I mean, TikTok, and here's a hat. Do you like this hat? Is that like what people do for shopping live, is just show off stuff?
Yeah, I don't know, but I mean, I went to, I was doing it's like 3 months ago now. I was doing like photo shoot and we rented out a space for like to our bags and stuff. And I got there and the person, like the woman who owned the photo shoot said to me like, are you doing stuff on TikTok Shop? And I was like, well, not really. I need to do more of it. So, and she said, one of my friends launched a skincare brand last week. She did a live shopping event and she had 50K worth of orders in one live shopping feed.
Wow.
I was like, what? I mean, skincare, beauty. I mean, I get it's like the perfect niche for TikTok Shop, but but I mean, I just feel like live shopping. It seems like that's where they're pushing a lot of their kind of the algorithm, whatever, at the moment.
Interesting. Okay. I'll have to try it. I've done Instagram Live a few times, and one of them was when I was in the warehouse shipping stuff and that sort of thing. And like, I didn't get a lot of views. I think it was like 10 or something, which is kind of surprising given at that point, I think Rainier Watch had like 50,000 followers or something like that. So it was a very, very low percentage of the followers, but I think TikTok is a totally different beast when it comes to live. You don't know until you try it. So, and I've been doing a lot more content. That's been one of my big focuses, is like the pillar of content. And so I've been putting more on TikTok, and I've been seeing like a slow trickle of numbers start to grow in terms of view counts and followers and that sort of thing. So maybe that could help set the groundwork for TikTok Live. We'll see. I'll report back.
Yeah, I want to try it as well. We'll see what happens. I'm trying to think of how I would do it. I was thinking like maybe like doing on the tennis court or something, and just like having the bags there, hitting some tennis balls, and then like showing the bag. I don't know. It's all cringy, isn't it? It's hard to get yourself to do it, but
Very cringy.
I think the people that lean into it seem to do pretty well. So
Yeah, I have to look for good examples, I guess. I would be be curious. Like, I wonder if even just like you playing tennis with like the bag in the foreground or something, and just like you hitting some forehands or something. But I don't know if that would be enough, or if that's interesting to people, or like who knows, I guess.
Yeah, or like trying to hit it like with a serve or something, like a target. I have no idea. Like, I suppose this stuff needs to be tested, but yeah.
That's, I feel like your content should totally be educational focused, or something like that. You know, it's like auxiliary to the bag. You're not like selling the bag, and it could be like, hey, this is how you hit a better forehand. This is how you serve better. Like, this is how you slice a backhand. Like, there's so many different things. I think that there could be a lot of educational sort of content thoughts. I'm sure you've thought about all this before, but it's just a random idea that popped in my head for you.
Yeah, no, it definitely is part. Like, I think I'm trying to not do too much education to be like, oh, we're a tennis channel sort of thing, but more like maybe stuff around like really cool courts and venues and places to travel, to place to play and stuff like that, and just like almost like the lifestyle aspect of of playing sport, or playing tennis, specifically tennis and other racket sports. Like maybe that sort of side of things where it kind of like people, it's still engaging and interesting because people like want to see those cool places. And there's some other accounts I've kind of got my eye on that kind of, not businesses, like creators that kind of do that sort of stuff, and they kind of
Yeah.
just kind of make it kind of interesting about cool places you can play, and cool places that, and more about just like getting to the courts, and all around the travel aspect of it. That's what I'm trying to do. But again, it's you know, it's just a lot of like to plan, but I'm on it. Well, I say I'm on it. I'm trying to get more of that content out for sure.
Yeah, that's cool. Nice. I like it. Cool. I think that's a wrap from my side. Just all the stuff happening. Do you have anything else to tag on to the end here, Jack?
No, I think that was it. Yeah, I think we've done a good 2-week recap right there.
Cool. Yeah, thanks a lot for tuning in. We're going to be back in the next episode talking about email marketing, so stay tuned for that. And we're going to kind of throw back the curtain more and show what's working and what's not for us. And yeah, thanks a lot. Catch you guys later.
Catch you next one.